SAP HANA Rules Framework supports the use of public and private aliases. An alias is a shortcut that references vocabulary entities and rule expression language elements such as conditions and expressions. Aliases are used within rule conditions, output parameters and action parameters to simplify the rule expression language and to provide reusability of regularly used expressions. A public alias is created in an href vocabulary and is available to all rules that reference that vocabulary. A private alias is created within a specific href rule and is solely available to that rule alone. Note that a developer can configure SAP HANA Rules Framework to restrict a business user to only the creation of private or public aliases, or the unrestricted creation of both types. An alias can be created as a textual alias or a decision table alias. I will explain decision table aliases later on in this session. A text alias can consist of 4 different types, and I will show you examples of each. My first example is of type data model attribute. As its name suggests, it simply consists of an attribute associated to a data object. In this example, I have created an alias called customer income with the content annual income of the customer. Please be aware that alias names can only be formed from alphanumeric and underscore characters. Spaces and special characters are disallowed. My next example alias is of the type expression. I have called this one average customer income, and it has the content average of annual income of all customers. The third type of alias is of type condition. This alias includes an evaluation such as annual income of the customer is greater than average customer income. As shown in this example, an alias can be used to nest other aliases. In this case, the alias minimum customer income is nesting the text alias average customer income. It could just as easily nest a decision table alias. I will now show you how a text alias is created by setting up the fourth alias type. This is of type constant. I click on the New Alias button and enter the name of the alias in the name field. Whereas the previous aliases I showed you were global aliases, I will create this one as a private alias. I simply need to select the required availability radio button. I will enter the constant 4000 into the content field and then save the new alias. Remember that as a private alias, this alias is only available to this specific rule. It is transparent to any other rule in the application. When I wish to add the alias into my rule condition, you can see that autocomplete has added it to its list of suggestions available. I will now explain decision table aliases. These have practically the same capabilities of a normal decision table with the exception of a few things. 1. They don't support actions, and 2. Output parameters are limited to one column. Decision table aliases are useful when you have many rules that would like to make use of the same condition expressions, but need the rule results to differ by including additional criteria. In this way, you do not have to repeatedly create the same decision table in every rule, but you are able to use one or more decision table aliases that have a different result structure. Decision table aliases can be consumed by text rules or by decision table rules. Let us create a new public decision table alias. I opt to create a new rule in the SAP HRF web application called Premium Customer Account. I now elect to create a text rule and select the New Alias button. I will fill in the dialog, making sure the availability of the alias is in all rules and with the content decision table. I can now create conditions using the same column expression procedure described in a previous lesson covering decision table creation. I will add one single column expression for credit rating and click Next. The next dialog displayed is reserved for decision table aliases and asks you to specify an output name and data type. This is because decision table aliases are limited to a single output parameter or column. I will call the output name affordability and give it a type of string. The final dialog once again follows the same procedure as normal decision table creation, allowing you to provide condition row evaluations and their corresponding output criteria. I'm going to use a first match hit policy. This is because there's only one feasible result for each customer, and set up 3 conditions for low, medium and high credit ratings before saving the alias. Once the decision table alias exists, I can use it in my text rule. As part of the rule condition, I can simply select the decision table alias as I would do for any rule expression language condition. When I wish to embed the decision table alias into a decision table rule, I follow all the usual procedures. I'll create a new rule and request a decision table. I can then use my decision table alias as one of the columns. I can supplement the alias condition with further conditions as I wish. For instance, I can add customer agenda to the condition expression list to make my rule more specific. Finally, I can add my condition evaluation rows and add an output. It can be seen from this example that I have the ability to use global decision table aliases to create a variety of rules without constantly having to recreate the credit rating range evaluations. It is important to show you how text and decision table aliases are stored. I need to open the rule to view the private text alias we created at the beginning of this lesson, and I will do this in SAP HANA Studio. You can see how the alias is defined with its name, content and type. You can also see that it has a dependency on the banking vocabulary, which was the one chosen when the rule was created. We can now look at the global aliases by opening the vocabulary itself. I wish to bring to your attention the first statement in the vocabulary, is default writable from app. If this statement is set to true, then global aliases can be created using the HRF Rule Builder UI. But if it's false or the statement does not exist, then only private aliases can be created. By scrolling to the bottom of the vocabulary file, we can see the text and decision table global aliases that have been defined. First, if we look at the text aliases, we can see that they have the same name, content and type structure as we saw with the private alias. The public decision table alias is also stored in this section of the vocabulary. I'm not going to go into detail describing the format of the alias, as this is covered in the SAP HRF Development and Implementation Guide. However, it is fairly easy to recognize the definition of the condition, output, and the column expressions associated with the decision table alias that we created. Thank you for viewing this lesson. I hope it has been useful to you. Please look out for the next lesson we have planned for this series that will be an introduction to HRF rule services.